want to go to one that I know you're going to be passionate about, which is this whole concept of a revolution in college sports. How dare they play the athletes who are the heroes that pack the stadiums, whose the revenue they generate fund most of the university. The audacity that they want to let these kids now start earning a few bucks, getting their own endorsement deals. Are you for this? And if so, do you think this is just the beginning of what could be a massive transformation on where the revenue pie is going to be split up in college sports?
Let me start by saying something controversial. First of all, yes, these athletes should be paid. Absolutely. They're the ones that generate the revenue for these schools. They should be paid. I would take it one step further and say the profits from these athletic programs should be put back into the schools to reduce tuition levels for every student. Because the tuition levels are ridiculous. You're paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year for tuition. Meanwhile, your academic programs are making billions of dollars, and you're not paying the people who make you those billions. There's a fundamental disconnect there, and I think there needs to be a wholesale examination of how this system
So like a hospital has a parking lot for revenue, saying my sports team should be creating enough revenue to reduce tuition. Interesting point. What's your thought on that?
It's a $1 billion industry. The NCAA drives $1 billion of revenue every year. My only point I would say, and this is how pro sports is starting to build their collective bargaining agreements, not every student deserves to get paid. In fact, there's probably a small percentage that's probably driving most of the interest in the sport. And I know it's more of a team game at the college level, but we still got to think about the value driver, and it's usually the top performing athletes.
So what top performing athlete is going to want to have an equal pie? They're going to want to have more than their fair share.
I think they deserve their fair share. If I'm going to be a pure capitalist, I'm going to say, okay, at least take it out of the hands of the schools a little bit and give it to the top recruits and the people that are going to be pro.
80% of the players in the field are going to bloody so that the few handful of athletes make
80% of the players are lucky to be there.
Honestly, I think you let the free market decide. I'm fine with paying the players because if you take a look at something like the NFL, there's no viable minor league outside of the NCAA. So for players to get into the NFL, there's only one way to do that, and that's to go play in the NCAA and sacrifice their body and risk a future career on potentially getting injured.
Not the CFL? The CFL is not a minor league.
So what do you think about the argument that they make saying, look, these people are already treated with scholarships, they've got the alumni take good care of them. You know, if you sweep the floor once a week, you can buy yourself a nice new car. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening. What do you think about that argument that says, hey, we're already producing scholarships for the school?
Yeah, it holds no water, because if you're the one responsible for generating billions or multi-millions of dollars, and okay, what's the value of your scholarship and your accommodation? 100,000, right? So you're going to say, come on, guys, I generate all these millions and this is what you're paying me? It's like paying Austin Matthews, $50,000 a year.
Yeah, but for students that are going in and getting a tuition paid, they're basically staying there until they can get drafted into a professional league. So a lot of them will go in for the one and done because that's just a ticket into the league. If you're paying them, there's probably a better opportunity that they would stay in school, probably get that education, and then when they go out and play professionally, if that doesn't work out, then at least they have something to fall back on.
Happening in basketball, guys are going overseas.
So let me pivot to you, James, and you're going to love this because it's called locally grown. I'm a locally grown athlete, and I was thinking of Duke or seeing one of the powerhouses, which is really you got to say this, the Pareto effect holds. There's a handful of universities that allow the kind of revenue they generate. But now I'm not going to go out there because if I stay local, I can cut a nice little deal with a car dealership, get a couple ads. Is that going to destabilize the entire league because those flagship brands that hold this entire industry together are no longer going to have the same recruiting teeth because they can't get the same deals?
I don't know. I mean, here in Toronto, where we're filming, it's we have such a talent pool of basketball players, and we actually have some pretty good institutions on the collegiate level to support some talent, potentially an NCAA type of competition. I would love to be able to throw more incentive for our local players to stay. So that's my only take on that. But if it makes Canadian players more competitive, I'm down.
But Tony, I would say the opposite will happen. If you diversify that revenue pool, the base, where smaller markets can, athletes will be attracted to smaller markets because they're getting paid, it might mean a little more parity. It might mean that a lot of these big schools won't have the power that they once had.
So talking about parity, though, a lot of the money that's generated out of the flagship sports goes for scholarships, and we know we need gender parity. You have to have the equal amount of scholarships for both sexes, and some of those scholarships go into sports that would never even catch a camera's lens. But that athlete still has a chance to get it. Are you willing to sacrifice that for the sake of making a handful of athletes wealthier?
Probably not. I mean,
I don't want. It's a false proposition. It's not an either or. I think there's more than enough money to fund, let's say, sports that are not as widely watched, while at the same time paying the people who generate the revenues for you. And I would say, to my previous point, you can put some more money into the kitty to make tuition more affordable.
It's a big, like we said, it's $1 billion.
It's a huge
It is,
investment.
but honestly, the payment should be commensurate with the revenue that sport draws.
Sure.
Right?
So-
And I think that's more than fair.
So so survival of the fittest. That's where the wealth should go. The ones that catch the eyeballs win. So we're not talking about university in the sense of amateur athletes anymore. Whatever rises to the top is what we should focus on.
I didn't tell you what sport to choose.
Well, what are the sport? Well, you look at the mainstream sports; they're the ones that are going to get the attention.
People watch football
Right.
in college and they watch basketball.